What's up guys, this is Danny Matrango with Mind Pump TV. Today I'm super excited to share with you some of my favorite tips and tricks that I picked up along the way in my years of training. Stuff that's really helped me and helped my clients see success and progression inside and outside the gym. Let's get into it. When it comes to pectoral training or chest training, anatomy, structure and function, understanding how it all ties together is actually really important. There's two main muscles that comprise the pectoralis complex, the pec minor, pectoralis minor, and the pec major, right? The pec minor we're not going to talk about today. It's superficial. All the visible pec musculature in most people is going to be pectoralis major and its three heads, the clavicular head, the sternal head, and the costal head, or sometimes those two are combined into what we would call the sternocostal head. We'll just focus on the clavicular head and the sternocostal head. Those fibers, or the orientation of that musculature, is across the body laterally, right? So that's why the chest functions to bring the humerus across the body like this. Because as these fibers are lengthened in this position, as they contract or shorten, right, they come together like this onto the sternum. As they shorten, you can actually put your hand right here if you want to feel this. As they shorten, you'll feel that pec tighten up. It will form a full muscle belly and it will bring the arm in. Another function too is if you actually tilt the hand over into this little tiny bit of rotation right here, you'll notice you get additional contraction. So even after you're fully flexed, if you rotate that thumb down, you'll feel those fibers contract even more. So let me show you how that looks, how to set it up to optimally hit the majority of the fibers of your pectoralis major. When you set up for the cable pec fly, there's a bunch of different cable attachments in most gyms, right? You might have a designated cable machine that works well for pec flies. You might have a large cable apparatus like this where you set it up in the middle. You might even be using a cable pec deck or something like that where it's kind of on a more fixed path. But the thing I really like to think about is lining up the cable or the resistance profile here with kind of the clavicle, because again, I'm trying to be right here and I want the center of force or the movement of the pec to be in complete alignment with that cable. I want the pec to be doing most of the work and I want that, again, resistance to be very smooth and even. So from here, I just take a step forward and one step back and stagger my stance. I don't do this with a straight arm. Puts too much tension on the elbows and the shoulders. So I actually lock the arms up a little bit and make like a letter C. A lot of people will say when you do the rep to act like you're hugging a barrel, right? That works fine. What I like to do is from this position, I start when I feel the stretch in my pectoral tendon. That's my body's way of telling me that my pec is fully stretched for the most part. So from here, I come forward and I internally rotate. And I actually like to extend my elbows. You don't have to do that, but I find that I get a much fuller contraction when I finish with a little bit of elbow extension and a little bit of rotation here. You'll notice I don't do this. I rotate downward. I find that when I do that, I get a much stronger contraction. Now, if you're somebody who wants to bias the upper portion of the pectoralis major, you can bring these down a little bit and come up. You don't necessarily have to. A lot of that can be cued with intent, simply thinking about contracting the fibers that are maybe a little bit higher up on the sternum. When you do the exercise, it's really critical that you maintain a good, measured tempo. Do not go quickly when you do this. Because what ends up happening for a lot of trainees is they start using momentum and they'll load up the back foot and then they'll load up the lead foot. And when this comes back, what they do is they catch it. The pectoral tendon will do what we call a stretch shortening cycle and you'll just bounce out of the back end. And that's all just garbage reps. It's wasted volume, right? I want you guys under control. When you feel the stretch here, bring it forward. Let the pecs do the job of controlling it on the way back and let the pecs fully shorten on the way forward. Pecs control the entire time. You'll feel it right away and you won't have to do nearly as much work. In terms of breathing on this exercise, right, I like to exhale on the way out and inhale as I bring the weights back. So I find that exhalation and letting the air out of my lungs actually helps me bring the weight forward more for whatever reason. It gets me in a nice rhythm. In terms of like landmarks, checkpoints, how you know you're doing this thing right, when you come forward, I really want you guys to focus on fully shortening the pec, getting the most squeeze possible. For some of you guys who have a really good range of motion, you might even be able to cross the hands over. And the last piece I really want to touch on is a prescription piece as to how often you should do this for your goals. If you want to develop your pecs, you can do this 2 to 3 times a week, if not more. It's just going to depend on how much intensity you apply. I would recommend if you have a smaller chest or you're having trouble building it, try to do it 3 times a week with a moderate intensity at a variety of rep ranges so that you can, again, stimulate those fibers as much as possible and really get in touch with activating your pecs properly. It's just gonna make pressing movements like your bench presses that much more pec dominant. And if, again, growing your pecs is what you want, that's a critical piece of your training. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Really hope you liked the video. If you did, do me a big favor. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We go through the comments all the time looking for ideas for where to take our content, as well as answering any technical questions you guys might have or things that might pop up in your head that you need help with. Thanks again, you guys. Have a great day.